Let's step inside the exciting world of John Javier Portillo, the Bandidos' most dreaded legend and ultimate mystery. He cast a palpable shadow across the history of crime, radiating menace and cunning beyond comparison. Get ready for an exciting adventure as you go further and deeper into his perilous dominion, where peril lurks around every corner, and your adrenaline soars at the prospect of the unknown. What terrible things happened to him that made him the most dreaded member of the Bandidos? Let's check it out. Bandidos Outlaw Motorcycle Organization National Vice President John Javier Portillo, who is 59 years old, was ordered by a federal judge to 2 straight life terms and 20 years in federal jail for racketeering and drug dealing. United States Attorney John F. Bash, Western District of Texas, Drug Enforcement Administration DEA Special Agent in Charge Will Gaspy, Houston Division, Federal Bureau of Investigation FBI Special Agent in Charge Christopher Combs, San Antonio Division, Texas Department of Public Safety Director Stephen McCraw, Austin Police Chief Brian Manley, San Antonio Police Chief William McManus, and Alacosta County Sheriff David A. Soward made the announcement today. In addition to the jail sentences, Senior U.S. District Judge David A. Ezra ordered that Portillo give the government his motorbike, 3 guns, and $17,827.20 that were found during a search of his home in 2016. What dark truths lurked under the intimidating mask of John Javier Portillo? This case shows that the Department of Justice has the tools to peel away a layer of legal action to find and punish illegal behavior underneath. On May 17, 2018, after a nearly 3-month trial, a jury convicted Portillo and National Bandidos President Jeffrey Fay Pike, age 63, of Count 1 conspiracy to violate the Racketeering Influence Corruption Organization Statute, Count 3 murder in aid of racketeering, Count 4 conspiracy to commit murder in aid of racketeering, Count 5 1 count of conspiracy to commit assault with a dangerous weapon in aid. Portillo was also found guilty of Count 2 murder in aid of racketeering, Count 8 firing a gun during a violent crime, Count 10 conspiracy to possess with the intent to distribute more than 500 grams of methamphetamine and cocaine, Count 11 possession with the intent to distribute cocaine, and Count 13 being a felon in possession of a gun. Jurors found Pike and Portillo guilty of conspiring to run a criminal organization through racketeering acts like telling, authorizing, approving, and letting members of the Bandidos kill, try to kill, rob, attack, intimidate, extort, and sell drugs. During the hearing, evidence showed that Pike and Portillo told other Bandido members to kill Anthony Benesch in 2006. Benesch was trying to start a chapter of the Hells Angels in Texas in Austin at the time. Members of the Bandidos told Benesch to stop what he was doing and stop recruiting, but Benesch did not listen. Then, on March 18, 2006, several Bandido members killed Benesch outside of an Austin restaurant to protect the business's power, image, and area. Jurors also decided that Portillo and others killed Robert Lara in Anacosta County in January 2002 as payback for the death of Javier Negrete, who was a member of the Bandidos. Negrete was killed outside a San Antonio bar in October 2001. At the time, he was a member of the same Bandidos group as Portillo. Jurors also decided that Pike, Portillo, and others plotted to kill and hurt members of the Cossack Outlaw Motorcycle Organization and people who were close to them. Testimony showed that Portillo said the Bandidos and Cossacks were at war with each other, with Pike's agreement. As part of this war, the Bandidos did a number of dangerous things around Texas, such as in Fort Worth, Gordon, Odessa, Port Arnasis, Crystal City, and other places. Testimony also showed that Portillo and other members of the Bandidos were trafficking methamphetamine and cocaine. They also had an agreement with the Texas Mexican Mafia that said Bandidos members didn't have to pay the 10% dime to the Texas Mexican Mafia in exchange for permission to traffic drugs. Bandidos National Vice President Javier Portillo's sentencing is one more step towards the end of a thorough investigation by the DEA, FBI, and our law enforcement partners into the Bandidos outlaw motorcycle gang's leadership structure and illegal activities, said Will Gaspy, Special Agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration's Houston Division. This investigation shows how much law enforcement wants to make sure communities across Texas are safe and stop gang members who sell drugs and do other illegal things from setting up shop in our neighborhoods. Christopher Combs, the FBI special agent in charge, said, "Today's sentence is a result of the FBI's and all of our law enforcement partners' great work together. This attempt shows how serious we are about keeping our neighborhoods safe from gang bloodshed and illegal behavior. It also makes it clear that we won't stop looking for and prosecuting the leaders and members of these dangerous criminal organizations. Gang violence is a threat to the safety and security of Texas communities," DPS Director Stephen McCraw said. "These are hard cases, but thanks to the hard work of law enforcement and prosecutors working together, these criminals can't hurt our communities anymore." As the dust settles on the tumultuous story of John Javier Portillo, his memory lives on as a chilling warning of how far people will go to gain power and fear. His time as the most feared Bandidos member is written into the books of crime history as a lesson. What are your views on him? Do share your opinions in the comments below. What comes to your mind when I say woman? Maybe a sweet, beautiful, or humble figure. But in today's video, we're going to introduce you to such women who have been the most dangerous ones in the history of the Hells Angels. Let's dig deeper and find out what horrifying crimes have they committed. Starting off our countdown, number 7 on the list is Rosie Ramirez. Ramirez's tale exemplifies her bravado and unrestrained violence. Her fiery demeanor and courage were well known in the rough world of outlaw motorcycle organizations originating in Arizona. Being reared in a rough environment, Rosie's fearlessness distinguished her as one of the most formidable individuals in Hells Angels history. She was also recognized early on by her unwavering spirit and determination to give in. She found comfort on a bike's back, capturing the tensions of the Hells Angels by expressing an untamed, raw energy. Rosie's journey with the club was everything but simple. She had to overcome the largely male environment and establish her value by pushing herself forward with perseverance and determination. Rival gang members frequently felt the full brunt of Rosie's anger, and her bold riding style and biking prowess made her a force to be reckoned with, leaving law enforcement in her wake. Her bold maneuver changed the course of the battle and helped the Hells Angels surprise everyone by winning. However, Rosie's aggressive temperament and volatile temper were a double-edged blade that both gained her admiration and fear. She became one of the most sought-after girls as a result of numerous interactions caused by enforcement. Rosie was confronted by Angels members, but she remained unrepentant and unconvinced, refusing to submit to the authorities. The next one on the list is Lena Lethal Lawson. Lena, who is from the harsh Alaskan environments, became a well-known character in the outlaw biker scene thanks to her abilities, accuracy, and lethal acts. Lena, who joined the Hells Angels at a young age, had a natural aptitude for mechanical engineering and was superior to her colleagues in her abilities to disassemble and rebuild engines. However, her mechanical prowess gained her recognition and made her a well-known character within the club. Beyond her technical prowess, she showed how effective she was in fending off threats. When the situation called for it, Lena used her measured and exact approach to conflicts rather than seeking out needless turmoil or violence. As a result, she became an unstoppable force. Despite her amazing powers, Lena's ability to avoid ambushes and turn the tables on other gangs proved her skill and left her enemies defeated. Lena's life wasn't without controversy. Because of her deadly effectiveness, she became a top target for law authorities, which resulted in ongoing surveillance and investigation. Lena was evasive though, so she could always keep one step ahead of the law. Lena Lethal Lawson was an invaluable member of the Hells Angels because she operated on the edge of morality, making it difficult for law enforcement to apprehend her. Moving on to number 5 on the list is Daisy Donovan. Donovan was a woman who epitomizes the virtue of courage. Daisy was no stranger to risk, and she had a thrill-seeking mentality that drove her to seek out difficulties. She eventually joined the Hells Angels as a result of this, a group renowned for its love of freedom and contempt for danger. Daisy joined the Hells Angels after performing a risky deed when a rival gang stole a valuable motorcycle. Daisy took it upon herself to do it for the club. Her bold deed earned her the moniker Death Wish and cemented her standing. Daisy's reputation for daring deeds among the Hells Angels increased as she became one of the group. She was well known for her rash courage. She was a significant asset to the club, gladly taking on responsibilities that others thought were too risky, being composed under pressure and not backing down from any challenge. Daisy, however, frequently found herself at odds with the law because of her daring spirit. Despite having several run-ins with the law, Daisy avoided being caught in the act and relied on her wits and fast thinking to get herself out time and time again. One of Daisy's most famous feats was a high-speed pursuit by law enforcement on the motorcycle she was riding. Daisy expertly avoided capture by pulling off a series of spectacular maneuvers that left the pursuing officers in her trail. Stepping on to number 4 is Firebrand Fiona. Growing up in Chicago, Fiona Firebrand Fitzpatrick, a female Hells Angels 7, stood out among the group as a woman of ferocious passion and unwavering drive. Her rebellious nature and love of motorcycles led her to the Hells Angels, where she soon established herself. She was a natural maverick who refused to accept the current quo. Fiona gained the moniker Firebrand for her ferocious rants and appeals for disobedience against social conventions. She also became the Hells Angels spokesperson and rallying cry, encouraging her fellow club members with her passionate words. Her influence extended beyond only her remarks. She was a lady of action when she was alone herself and frequently took the lead in conflicts with opposing gangs. Significant misdeeds happened during a citywide action against motorbike gangs. She planned rallies against the crackdown against the Hells Angels because she would not be intimidated. However, the intensity and defiance of these demonstrations sent a strong message to the government that the Hells Angels would not back down. Fiona was frequently targeted by law enforcement due to her rebellious character. Despite being in their sights, she persisted in her mission. Coming in at number 3 is Tara Tornado Thompson. Tornado Thompson was distinctive. The Hells Angels welcomed Tara's temperamental disposition and her inability to back down from a confrontation, which drove her to join the group. She rapidly made friends with other members of the club thanks to the organization's acceptance of her stormy personality. Tara had a forceful presence due to her direct demeanor and knack for inspiring her fellow angels. Because of her erratic behavior, Tara is known as the Tornado, a suitable illustration of the chaos whirlwind she frequently brought on with her. She was unwavering in her commitment during a tense argument with a rival gang in one of her most illustrious feats. In this battle, Tara rallied the Hells Angels and led a furious assault on the rival squad, earning her club a resounding victory. Due to her aggressive personality, Tara was frequently targeted by law enforcement. She was constantly being watched. Tara, though, always managed to remain one step ahead. She used her erratic personality to scatter and confuse her pursuers in the Hells Angels world. Thompson was a powerhouse who insisted on respect for her combative nature. She quickly became one of the most revered and feared people in the world of outlaw motorcycles due to her leadership skills and capacity to unite her fellow angels. Moving on to number 2 in the list is Nightmare Nina. Nicholson Nightmare Nina Nicholson stood out as a person who instilled a mixture of respect and fear in the dark corners of New Orleans. Nina joined the Hells Angels because of her tough background, which sharpened her survival instincts and strategic thinking skills. She also joined because of her love of motorcycles, where she excelled right away. Nina's strategic insight developed into a useful resource for the club, enabling them to give them an advantage in conflicts. Her merciless strategies with competing gangs had her enemies cower in fear, garnering her the moniker Nightmare. She was a formidable opponent with the capacity to make every confrontation a nightmare. One of Nina's most illustrious feats involved a difficult turf war with a rival gang. Through her tactical foresight and execution, she outwitted the opposition group and secured a crucial victory for the Hells Angels. This accomplishment further cemented her reputation as a tactical genius within the outlaw motorcycle community. Nina's brutal methods frequently made her a target for the police. She continued to be closely watched by several agencies, and everything she did was carefully observed. Despite the strain, Nina consistently avoided getting caught by the law. Nina Nightmare Nicholson was more than just a member of the Hells Angels. She was a tactical expert who inspired both fear and respect in equal measure. In the top spot comes Brenda Breakneck Brooks. Born and reared in warm California, Brenda Breakneck Brooks was a legendary figure known for her unparalleled speed and agility on a motorbike. Brenda had a natural interest for motorcycles from a young age. Brenda joined the Hells Angels because of her outstanding skill with speed and accuracy on a bike. She rapidly distinguished herself as a star member of the group. She used her outstanding skills to outrun and outmaneuver her opponents in high-speed encounters with rival gangs. Her speed and agility on a motorbike were unrivaled. Because of her remarkable speed, she was given the moniker Breakneck, which is a testament to her mastery of riding at breakneck speeds. Let's step into the shadows of the feared Mongols biker club, where an enigmatic leader holds all the cards and calls all the shots. Shrouded in mystery, this figure holds sway with an iron fist and strikes fear into the hearts of all. Who is the cunning puppeteer pulling the strings of the Brotherhood's might? Scott Junior Erikson is the most fearsome Mongol leader ever. In the year 1980, Scott Junior Erikson became a member of the Mongol motorcycle gang. He served as president of the national club 4 times and saw it expand from a few hundred members in California to thousands of members all over the world. Junior prioritized the Mongols over everything else, demonstrating that the Mongols are more than simply a motorcycle club, they are a brotherhood, which is a large part of the reason the club has become as well known as it is today, a brotherhood for which he had been willing to lay down his life for 30 years. A friend and Junior went fishing at the lake in 1974 when he was very young. A large man with a lengthy beard and hair rode up on a motorcycle and parked it near the lake while they were there. As they watched the rider dismount and light up, they saw that guy was wearing a vest with a Mongols motorcycle club patch. Even though the man was only there for about 10 minutes, the impression he left on 14-year-old Junior, who was there to see it, remained with him forever. Do you know what he did next with his thought? He began daydreaming about owning a Harley-Davidson motorcycle after picking up Easy Rider magazine and reading them religiously. At the age of 18 in 1978, Junior spent $3,400 on a Harley-Davidson Super Glide. Not long after arriving in California, he began to hear reports of a bloody conflict between 2 of the largest motorcycle clubs, the Hells Angels and the Mongols, over the state's territory. Junior began interacting with other club members as time went on. Junior joined the Mongols that day and began participating in weekend riots with them. After a few months, he was invited to the clubhouse of the Mongols' San Diego chapter, where he was formally introduced to the chapter's members and president. Junior's personality and demeanor changed for the worse the day he joined the gang. His brothers had given him a Smith & Wesson .38 Special as an initiation present, and he had grown his hair and beard long. Junior had no fear and thought that he was invincible when he first joined the Mongol Motorcycle Club. But he quickly learned otherwise when 3 of his brothers were killed in the first year. 2 years later, Junior and his brothers got into a fight at a pub with a member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, and Junior wound up shooting and killing the Hells Angel. Local publications blamed the Mongols Motorcycle Club for the shooting, and the police went on a manhunt for the gang's members when the incident gained widespread media attention. After hearing that 3 of his brothers had been arrested and charged with first-degree murder and that the police had issued a warrant for his arrest, Junior hastily got out of town, transferred to a Mongol chapter in Tulsa, changed his name, and hid in Oklahoma for 6 months with the help of his Mongol brothers. Junior's arrest didn't come long after. In 1986, at the age of 26, Junior was paroled out of prison. He was happy to be out of prison, but he was unhappy with the conditions of his parole, which stated that he was not to have any contact with any member of the Mongols Motorcycle Club for 1 year, and if he did, he would be sent back to prison. Unwilling to turn around to comply with his parole, Junior got a lawful job, but the day he was released, he reconnected with his brothers and almost immediately became the vice president of the Mongols San Diego chapter. A year later, he was asked to become the Mongols' national president, making him the youngest national president in the club's history. As time went on, Junior became increasingly devoted to the Mongols, to the detriment of nearly all of his other connections. In 1998, Junior and one of his club brothers were out at a pub when they were attacked by a man wielding a knife. To defend themselves, Junior smashed a glass over the assailant's head, knocking him out. Junior and his brother thought the incident was over, so they rode off on their motorcycles. However, the man decided to press charges and a warrant was issued for Junior's arrest a few days later. When he was taken into custody, Junior tried to explain that he had acted in self-defense, but the police officers didn't seem to care. After a favorable judgment was overturned and Junior's return to jail was ordered, the parole officer found that he had breached his parole. Junior became a folk hero in the Golden State because he tirelessly fought for the rights of Mongols everywhere. What are your views on him and his passion for his motorcycle club? Do let us know your opinions in the comments below. A sinister power cloaked in leather and spurred by rebellion emerged from the shadows of the 20th century. The name Hell's Angels alone was enough to strike fear into the hearts of many. Their mysterious leader, Sonny Barger, seemed to live on the outside of society, constantly testing the limits of what was considered acceptable. They made their mark in history with every turn of their turbulent journey, leaving a wake of destruction and unrelenting defiance in their wake. Let's check out what specific actions or decisions did this Hells Angels boss take that made him the most brutal of all the gang leaders. Born in Modesto, California on October 8, 1938, Sonny Barger is a man who defied all odds to become one of the most notorious and celebrated figures in the world of outlaw biker gangs. His mother abandoned him and his father to raise him after 4 months when she runs off with a Trailways bus driver. His father is a day laborer who spends his nights and most of his money at waterfront bars, often bringing home women and children who have been abused. In 1956, Barger co-founded his first motorbike club, the Oakland Panthers, with a group of fellow military veterans, but things changed for him as he found his true calling in life. Having joined the Army with a forged birth certificate and being kicked out 14 months later when his deception was discovered back home, Barger struggled to find his place in the world. Hurry up and Barge, one of the most infamous and feared members, Barger eventually becomes president of the Oakland Hells Angels and travels throughout the state of California negotiating territory and alliances with other Hells Angels chapters. However, with great power comes great corruption, and by 1960, the Oakland Hells Angels have established a massive narcotics network, becoming one of the most dangerous drug-dealing organizations in the country. In the early 1960s, the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club grew in size and notoriety, becoming one of the most feared outlaw biker gangs in the United States. Along with their increasing notoriety comes an increasing number of run-ins with the law and a growing number of slayings, making Barger a symbol of everything that is wrong with the criminal underworld. Despite Sonny Barger's presence at the Altamont concert and the fact that he was not involved in the stabbing, he was not charged in connection with the incident. The event and the Hells Angels' involvement cast a dark shadow over the club's contribution to the concert and the lives of those who attended. Meredith Hunter, 18, was killed when she was stabbed by a Hells Angel after aiming a firearm at the stage. But this was not the end of his brutality. There was one more person who was killed by Barger. Do you know who we're talking about? We will let you know soon, but before that, in the 1970s, there were some other challenges waiting for him. Barger faced more legal trouble and was eventually sentenced to 4 years in prison for possession of 37 grams of heroin and possession of an illegal firearm. This period marks a turning point for the Hells Angels, as the federal government begins to take a more aggressive stance against outlaw biker gangs, specifically targeting the Hells Angels. Although the legacy stopped him from living life to the fullest, he continues to ride the open road, eventually expressing a preference for high-powered Hondas and BMWs over the Angels' traditional Harley choppers. Through it all, Sonny Barger never loses his edge. He remains a rebel to the end, defying authority and pushing the limits of what is possible. Later in 1972, Barger, along with Hells Angels members Sergey Walton, Donald Dwayne, Whitey Smith, and Oakland Gary Popkin, was accused of murdering Servio Winston Aguero on May 21st. Aguero was a drug dealer from McAllen, Texas, who had traveled to Oakland with a shipment of narcotics for sale. Richard Ivaldi, a prosecution witness, said that he saw Barger shoot and kill Aguero in the bedroom of an absent acquaintance's house, and that Barger then ordered the others to set fire to the building. After a 7-week trial in which Ivaldi's veracity was called into question, Barger and his 3 co-defendants were found not guilty on December 29, 1972. Sharon Gruhike, Barger's girlfriend, said she was in bed with him at the time of the murder, and thus had no reason to suspect him. So these were some of the ruthless life decisions taken by the founder Sonny Barger. What motivated him to do that is maybe his will to establish his dominance and fear over others. Introducing the epitome of fear, the most feared man in the history of Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, also known as the HA, the Red and White and the 81 have carved their name into the annals of infamy. With 6,000 members in 467 chapters across 59 countries, one name reverberates with a resonance all its own: Frank Armin Hanebuth. Brace yourselves to know more about him. In Garbsen-Osterwald, Germany, Frank was born into a middle-class family. From an ordinary life, he became the leader of the Hells Angels in Europe. But how did it all start? Fate took him from carpentry to Hanover's red light district, and in 1995 he rose to prominence as a president of the Hanover chapter of the Bones Motorcycle Club. Let's have a look at how did this journey shape his destiny. In 1999, Frank joined the Hells Angels and became a powerful leader in Hanover, Germany. His chapter grew in wealth and influence, making Frank a respected figure in the criminal world. However, his reign was short-lived. In 2000, he faced arrest for trying to set up brothels in Hamburg. He was found guilty of a violent crime and spent 3 tough years in prison. But Frank didn't let this setback break him. After his release, he focused on expanding the Hells Angels in Hanover and throughout Germany. He was praised by the media for bringing peace to the once chaotic Steindorfertal, a neighborhood known for its violent clashes between Albanian, Russian, and Turkish gangs. But did you know that Frank Armin Hanebuth had a different side too? Yes, you heard it right. Newspapers like Hannoversche Allgemeine Zeitung and the New Press revealed his sophistication and respectability. Through his attorney, Getz Werner von Fromberg, Frank built connections with political and business elites in Hanover. But then, on May 24, 2012, a raid by the State Criminal Police Office of Lower Saxony and GSG 9 shook the underworld. What happened next? The investigation into alleged contract killings ordered by Hanebuth was dropped due to lack of evidence, leaving behind an air of mystery. After the raid, he sought refuge in Mallorca, where he assumed the role of the president of the local Hells Angels chapter. But his sanctuary would be short-lived. On July 23, 2013, he was arrested in Mallorca, facing a multitude of charges. As the man in charge of the Hells Angels operations in Spain, he and his fellow club members were accused of forming a criminal organization, promoting illegal prostitution, drug trafficking, and money laundering. Following his arrest, he spent 4 weeks in solitary confinement before being remanded in normal custody in September 2013. In October of the same year, he was transferred to Madrid along with 17 other suspects. His confinement continued in the high-security wing of a prison in El Puerto in Santa Maria, where he awaited his trial. Throughout his tumultuous journey, he defied the odds. In July 2015, 2 years after his initial arrest, he was released from custody on a bail amounting to 60,000 euros. However, his freedom came with strict conditions, requiring him to appear at the police station once a week. But here's the twist. In July 2017, amidst the ongoing legal proceedings, Hanebuth found solace in the union of marriage. Can you believe it? He married his longtime girlfriend, Anna Sarah Naumann, in a ceremony held in Bissendorf near Hanover, making a personal triumph amidst the turmoil. After a lengthy legal battle, his trial in Spain on charges of membership in a criminal organization finally began in January 2023. And let me tell you, he was the only defendant who used his right to a final statement before the trial was adjourned Friday evening, and he used it to insist that his organization was democratic. We are not a criminal organization. We are the only biker club in the world that is based on a democratic structure. That means one person, one vote, he said. He denied that there was a president of the group at a national or international level, claiming that each chapter is independent. His lawyer had previously requested the court during the closing arguments to acquit Hanebuth. But Spanish prosecutors are asking the judge overseeing the trial to fine him 4.2 million euros for the money laundering charge. The trial is expected to last several weeks. Prosecutors are seeking a 13-year prison sentence for him, as they consider him a key individual in the scheme that moved his group from Hanover to Mallorca after pressure in Germany increased. Let's step into the shadows of the feared Mongols biker club, where an enigmatic leader holds all the cards and calls all the shots. Shrouded in mystery, this figure holds sway with an iron fist and strikes fear into the hearts of all. Who is the cunning puppeteer pulling the strings of the Brotherhood's might? Scott Junior Erikson is the most fearsome Mongol leader ever. In the year 1980, Scott Junior Erikson became a member of the Mongol motorcycle gang. He served as president of the National Club 4 times and saw it expand from a few hundred members in California to thousands of members all over the world. Junior prioritized the Mongols over everything else, demonstrating that the Mongols are more than simply a motorcycle club, they are a brotherhood, which is a large part of the reason the club has become as well known as it is today, a brotherhood for which he had been willing to lay down his life for 30 years. A friend and Junior went fishing at the lake in 1974 when he was very young. A large man with a lengthy beard and hair rode up on a motorcycle and parked it near the lake while they were there. As they watched the rider dismount and light up, they saw that guy was wearing a vest with a Mongols motorcycle club patch. Even though the man was only there for about 10 minutes, the impression he left on 14-year-old Junior, who was there to see it, remained with him forever. Do you know what he did next with his thought? He began daydreaming about owning a Harley-Davidson motorcycle after picking up Easy Rider magazine and reading them religiously. At the age of 18 in 1978, Junior spent $3,400 on a Harley-Davidson Superglide. Not long after arriving in California, he began to hear reports of a bloody conflict between 2 of the largest motorcycle clubs, the Hells Angels and the Mongols, over the state's territory. Junior began interacting with other club members as time went on. Junior joined the Mongols that day and began participating in weekend riots with them. After a few months, he was invited to the clubhouse of the Mongols' San Diego chapter, where he was formally introduced to the chapter's members and president. Junior's personality and demeanor changed for the worse the day he joined the gang. His brothers had given him a Smith & Wesson .38 Special as an initiation present, and he had grown his hair and beard long. Junior had no fear and thought that he was invincible when he first joined the Mongol Motorcycle Club. But he quickly learned otherwise when 3 of his brothers were killed in the first year. 2 years later, Junior and his brothers got into a fight at a pub with a member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, and Junior wound up shooting and killing the Hells Angel. Local publications blamed the Mongols Motorcycle Club for the shooting, and the police went on a manhunt for the gang's members when the incident gained widespread media attention. After hearing that 3 of his brothers had been arrested and charged with first-degree murder and that the police had issued a warrant for his arrest, Junior hastily got out of town, transferred to a Mongol chapter in Tulsa, changed his name, and hid in Oklahoma for 6 months with the help of his Mongol brothers. Junior's arrest didn't come long after. In 1986, at the age of 26, Junior was paroled out of prison. He was happy to be out of prison, but he was unhappy with the conditions of his parole, which stated that he was not to have any contact with any member of the Mongols Motorcycle Club for 1 year, and if he did, he would be sent back to prison. Unwilling to turn around to comply with his parole, Junior got a lawful job, but the day he was released, he reconnected with his brothers and almost immediately became the vice president of the Mongols San Diego chapter. A year later, he was asked to become the Mongols' national president, making him the youngest national president in the club's history. As time went on, Junior became increasingly devoted to the Mongols, to the detriment of nearly all of his other connections. In 1998, Junior and one of his club brothers were out at a pub when they were attacked by a man wielding a knife. To defend themselves, Junior smashed a glass over the assailant's head, knocking him out. Junior and his brother thought the incident was over, so they rode off on their motorcycles. However, the man decided to press charges, and a warrant was issued for Junior's arrest a few days later. When he was taken into custody, Junior tried to explain that he had acted in self-defense, but the police officers didn't seem to care. After a favorable judgment was overturned and Junior's return to jail was ordered, the parole officer found that he had breached his parole. Junior became a folk hero in the Golden State because he tirelessly fought for the rights of Mongols everywhere. The FBI has long been looking into the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club because of its reputation for engaging in illegal activity. While it is difficult to categorically list the top most feared Hells Angels members or leaders, a number of people have become well known over time. It's crucial to remember that the Hells Angels organization has numerous chapters throughout the world, and that depending on their locale, different members may have different influences and reputations. In this video, we'll discuss the top 5 Hells Angels that the FBI has ever feared. Let's start with number 5, Maurice "Mom" Boucher, the man whose name, according to legends, inspires fear in the hearts of FBI agents. Even the most seasoned agents reportedly felt shivers go down their spines when they saw Boucher, who had an intimidating aura and an infamous reputation as the leader of the Hells Angels branch in Montreal. Mom Boucher and his gang of motorcycle-riding misfits must have made the FBI, which is renowned for taking on global crime syndicates and combating terrorists, shudder. According to legend, Boucher's illegal schemes were so daring and his influence so great that the FBI set up entire task squads to monitor him. In their top-secret offices, they would huddle around and stare at photos of Boucher, his hulking build and handlebar mustache instilling fear in their clerical hearts. But let's step back from the land of legends and get back to the actual world. Although Boucher was a well-known member of the Hells Angels and engaged in criminal activity, it's safe to conclude that the FBI had more important things on its plate. Boucher may have been under surveillance, but it's exceedingly improbable that he was the most dreaded target in their sights. Therefore, even the most imaginative storyteller would find it difficult to imagine Mom Boucher as the most FBI-feared man. Despite the fact that he may have developed a reputation among biker communities, the FBI's attention was diverted to more important issues. Thus, Boucher and his antics were reduced to the status of a colorful footnote in the annals of criminal history. George Christie, who is ranked number 4, is the man who supposedly made FBI officers shudder just by his very presence. Christie allegedly sent shockwaves through the FBI's ranks with his flowing silver hair and a motorcycle-riding swagger that could make even the toughest agent tremble. They claim that FBI agents would rush for their case files and drop their donuts when his name was mentioned, because they feared the wrath of this leather-clad legend. According to legend, Christie had a special ability to confuse the FBI with his superb organizing skills. Agents of the FBI would be perplexed since he would organize covert operations from his biker lair. They would huddle in their desks and discuss how this motorbike fanatic kept outsmarting them while gazing at his picture on the wall. But let's leave fantasy behind and return to the real world. Even though Christie was a prominent member of the Hells Angels and had his share of legal troubles, it's safe to conclude that the FBI was more focused on other, more urgent issues. They were occupied tackling espionage, global criminal networks, and other genuine dangers to national security. Therefore, even the most creative comic would find it difficult to create the wonderful exaggeration that George Christie was the most FBI-feared man, despite the fact that he may have developed a reputation among biker circles. The FBI was engaged in more significant conflicts, so Christie and his exploits in a leather cloak were relegated to myth and legend. Next up is number 3, Mark "Papa" Guardado, the man who allegedly caused FBI officers' shiny shoes to shudder. Papa Guardado was rumored to be the stuff of FBI nightmares, with his intimidating presence and a reputation that reputedly struck dread into the hearts of even the most seasoned investigators. Agents would cluster in their poorly lit offices, holding onto their credentials tenaciously, seeking to avoid coming into contact with this intimidating individual. According to legend, Guardado had a supernatural ability to avoid FBI observation. Agents would be left perplexed as he would vanish into thin air, calling into question their education. They would congregate in their personal hiding places, huddle around his image on the wall, and ponder how this motorcycle-riding outlaw could outwit them at every turn. But let's leave the land of fairy tales and head back to the real world. Guardado probably played a big role in the Hells Angels and engaged in some illegal activity, but it's safe to conclude that the FBI faced more formidable foes. They were occupied battling drug cartels, organized crime groups, and other genuine threats that needed their full attention. So, even though Papi Guardado may have developed a reputation among bikers, to claim that he was the most FBI-feared figure is a ridiculous exaggeration that would be difficult for even the most creative storyteller to construct. Papa Guardado and his leather-clad exploits were left to exist in the world of fiction and folklore, since the FBI had more important problems to take care of. Stepping on to number 2, Maurice Satan Bernardo, who according to legend was the man whose nickname alone gave FBI investigators shivers. Satan Bernardo apparently had the FBI shaking in their suits due to his evil reputation and diabolical name. Fearing that his demonic presence might taint their investigation files, agents would murmur his name in hushed tones. Satan Bernardo allegedly possessed supernatural abilities that enabled him to outsmart the FBI at every turn. Agents would look at him in bewilderment as he conjured up plans from the depths of biker hell. They would gather in pitch-black spaces with crucifixes in hand and discuss how this demonic presence kept eluding them. But let's leave folklore behind and head back to the real world. As a Hells Angel, Satan Bernardo may have engaged in his fair share of criminal activity, but it's safe to say that the FBI faced more formidable foes. They were occupied fighting off global crime gangs, terrorist groups, and other present-day dangers. Therefore, even the most creative comic would find it difficult to imagine Satan Bernardo as the most FBI-feared man, despite the fact that he may have developed a terrifying reputation among biker groups. Satan Bernardo and his demonic antics were left to exist in the realms of fiction and folklore, since the FBI had more important things to deal with. Sonny Barger takes the number 1 position. According to folklore, Sonny Barger, a legendary member of the Hells Angels motorcycle club, has earned a reputation that makes the FBI nervous. Barger has a lengthy history of being connected to the club's inner workings because of his wild beard and imposing demeanor. However, to assert that he is the most FBI-feared individual is akin to saying that a bulldog is the most feared animal in a petting zoo. Barger undoubtedly attracted the attention of law enforcement organizations, notably the FBI, with his captivating demeanor and outspoken attitude. He became a representation of the Hells Angels, a man whose very name could chill the spines of his foes. However, it might be a slight exaggeration to claim that the FBI spent its evenings tossing and turning in fear of Sonny Barger. Barger did engage in illegal activity and did time in prison, but let's not forget that police departments have faced far more serious dangers than a bunch of bikers revving their motors. The FBI focuses its efforts on battling organized crime, terrorism, and other significant threats to national security. Sonny Barger may have been a formidable influence within the Hells Angels, but to say that he was the most FBI-feared man is an exaggeration that even the most imaginative of writers would find difficult to construct. Law enforcement has had to contend with problems much bigger than a bunch of leather-clad bikers speeding down the roadways. Sonny Barger, Maurice Montboucher, George Christie, and Maurice Satan Bernardo, to name a few, have all made an indelible stamp on Hells Angels history. While their fame may have given rise to exaggerated stories of intimidation and fear, it's crucial to maintain perspective. The FBI's concerns go far beyond a bunch of leather-clad motorcyclists. Therefore, let's enjoy the vivid mythology surrounding these people while also keeping in mind that the FBI's formidable adversaries are not limited to motorbike fanatics, but also include multinational crime syndicates and risks to national security. Over the course of its history, the Hells Angels motorcycle organization has had its fair share of scary and dreaded members. These people have earned a legendary status within the group and are renowned for their grit, loyalty, and involvement in crime. The Hells Angels' 10 most infamous members will be examined in this video, along with their histories, legacies, and effects on the organization as a whole. Starting off our countdown with number 10 is Sonny Barger. Unquestionably, Sonny Barger has had a significant impact on the Hells Angels motorcycle organization throughout its history. He was instrumental in establishing the Oakland chapter's reputation and identity as a co-founder. Within the Hells Angels, Barger was the absolute leader. For many years, he presided over the Oakland chapter and established himself as the club's national and worldwide face. His status as a significant player inside the organization was cemented by his powerful personality and capacity to garner respect from club members. It is impossible to disregard Barger's involvement in illicit activity. Under his direction, the Hells Angels carried out a number of illegal activities, such as the trafficking of drugs, the smuggling of weapons, and violent crimes. Due to his participation in a plot to blow up a rival motorbike club's clubhouse, Barger was found guilty and sentenced to time in prison. Coming in at number 9 on our list is George Christie. George Christie, a former president of the Hells Angels chapter in Ventura, became well known within the organization for his strategic thinking, charismatic leadership, and controversial methods. He had a profound effect on the Hells Angels and the motorcycle club scene during his time as a chapter president. Stepping on to number 8 on our list is Terry Orendorff. In the turbulent 1960s and 1970s, Terry Orendorff, better known as Terry the Tramp, was a dreaded Hells Angel. Within the motorbike club, he had a reputation as a fiery and erratic person who irrevocably altered its history. Terry the Tramp was one of the most feared Hells Angels during his time because of his propensity for violence. He was frequently involved in physical fights with other club members and competing motorcycle gangs. He was a force to be reckoned with in the club and the greater biker world because of his propensity for violence and desire to get into fights. Moving on to number 7 on the list is Harry Joseph Bowman. During his time as Hells Angels president in the 1980s and 1990s, Harry Joseph Bowman had a considerable impact. Bowman had a profound impact on the Hells Angels and the world of illegal motorcycles. He was known for his ruthlessness, involvement in organized crime, and growth of the group. He was renowned for his no-nonsense attitude and willingness to use force to further the goals of the Hells Angels. Bowman got into a lot of fights, both with other motorcycle organizations and with others who ran into the Hells Angels. His standing as a powerful figure within the club was cemented by his reputation as a tough and unyielding commander. He was found guilty in 1999 on federal racketeering counts, which included drug trafficking, murder conspiracy, and other criminal offenses. His conviction led to a lengthy prison term, which effectively put an end to his tenure as the Hells Angels leader. Coming in at number 6 is Walter Stadnik. In the Hells Angels past, Walter Stadnik, also known as Nurgit, played a significant role. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, he had a considerable impact on the growth and consolidation of the club's presence in Canada. Stadnik became well known inside the Hells Angels as a leader, especially in the Eastern Canada area. Through strategic planning and strong leadership, he was able to steer clear of the tricky criminal underground dynamics and turn the Hells Angels into a powerful organization. Stadnik's participation in the expansion of the Hells Angels' drug trafficking operations was one of his major accomplishments. He was instrumental in creating a vast network that made it easier to distribute illegal substances, especially cocaine. The Hells Angels' status as a significant actor in the drug trade was cemented by Stadnik's capacity to establish alliances and manage massive criminal organizations. Violence and illegal activity have stained Stadnik's association with the Hells Angels. Numerous violent episodes, including assaults and even murder, have been connected to him. Stepping on to number 5 in the list is Philip Boudreault. In a Valley East pub on March 3, 2004, Boudreault attacked a father and his son, beating them both bloody with his fists. Donald Lavallee and his son Jeff Lavallee were the two individuals that were attacked. Lavallee Pierre intervened to save his son from the beating when he witnessed it happening, which prompted Boudreault to strike him back. Boudreault beat Donald Lavallee so severely that his jaw was shattered 3 times. He lost some teeth along with a portion of his jawline, and he also sustained bruised ribs. Boudreault was found guilty of a severe attack in a Sudbury pub in 2004 and sentenced in 2005. He agreed to a prison sentence of 3 years and accepted the lesser long-term offender classification, narrowly avoiding the dangerous offender designation and a life sentence in prison. Moving forward to number 4 on our list is Richard Vallee. With the help of Vallee, the Hells Angels were able to carry drugs across the border between Canada and the United States. In the border town of Champlain, New York, a group of Canadian Hells Angels entered a pub and bowling alley in January 1993 and asked the barman, Lee Carter, if he wanted to make some money transporting cocaine from New York to Montreal. Carter pretended to agree, but immediately got in touch with the NYSP, who hired him as an undercover agent. Carter bought cocaine in New York and gave it to 2 Canadian Hells Angels who tried to cross the border with it but were apprehended by American Customs. After being extradited to the United States in 2006, Vallee was found guilty of first-degree murder in connection with Carter's passing in September 2007. Valley was given a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole on April 13, 2008. Coming in at number 3 is Gerard Ward. In the Niagara Peninsula, Ward was on the verge of having a monopoly over the cocaine trade. He was well known in the criminal underworld for both the excellent quality of his cocaine, which drew drug dealers from all over Ontario to him in order to buy from him, and for the rival drug dealers who would pose as his employees in order to raise their own prices. Between 81 and 90% of the cocaine that Ward sold was pure. The police calculated that Ward was in charge of selling 75% of the cocaine in the Niagara region. Number 2, and the second most dreadful in the list, is David Carroll. Carroll collaborated with Lassard on the plans for the Lennoxville massacre, discussing how to get rid of the Montreal North chapter, which they had determined was a risk for the Hells Angels. Carroll visited Quebec in March 1985 to help Lassard fight the Laval chapter. Carroll, who was present at the Lennoxville shooting on March 24, 1985, was accused of first-degree murder for his actions at the time, but he was exonerated in 1987. In connection with the killing of a young man in Dartmouth who was allegedly in drug debt to the Hells Angels, Carroll was charged with first-degree murder once more on April 7, 1988. The trial resulted in another acquittal for Carroll. In the top spot and number 1 is Maurice Boucher. Boucher was found guilty of rape after holding a gun to the head of a 16-year-old girl in September 1984 and threatening to shoot her immediately if she refused to have sex with him. Boucher was able to fraudulently receive unemployment benefits while he was incarcerated. The address where the checks were being sent was a prison, but a clerk didn't realize it until just before his release in January 1986. Boucher joined the Montreal chapter of the Hells Angels motorcycle organization in 1986, not long after serving his 40-month-long term for the armed sexual assault, and advanced through its ranks fast. In 1988, Boucher traveled to Mississauga, Ontario, where he attempted to hijack a truck and take it back to Montreal, but he was quickly apprehended by the Peel Regional Police.